Hey there, football fans. Welcome to Goalside. King Eric is a poet, an actor, an artist, and above all, a legendary footballer like no other who made his mark in the history of the sport, not just with his goals and beautiful creativity, but with his demeanor and identity both on and off the pitch. Cantona himself is a divisive personality. He's a hero for some, and yet he's a villain for the others. But where is the truth? Well, to answer this question, we have to go way back in 1966 when Eric was born in a footballing city, that is Marseille. Even before he was born, Cantona was meant to be a revolutionary. His grandfather fought against Franco in Barcelona, where he suffered a couple of heart injuries and never fully recovered from. His other grandfather was from Sardinia, and Cantona's mother was from Barcelona. All in all, it was a mixture of culturally rich differences along with idealism and belief in one's own opinion. Cantona has two brothers, one younger and one older than him, which meant he had to fight for his place through rural neighborhoods right from the get-go. Despite the hardships on the streets, he was an obvious footballing talent, and he showed it whenever the ball was with him. However, when he first started training professionally at 15 years of age, Cantona was the goalkeeper. That's right, one of the most creative players ever started between the goalposts, but luckily he went further forward later on. This earned him a place in Auxerre's youth team, as the scouts noticed him early on. He was only 16 at the time. Starting in the youth ranks, it didn't take long until Cantona made his debut for the senior team at age 17. He signed his first full professional contract with Auxerre in 1986 when he was just 20, and even appeared for the French national team, becoming one of the youngest ever to do so. However, it was just a year later that Cantona's other side came to light. In a training incident at Auxerre, the reactionary Cantona punched his teammate Bruno Martini after a scuffle. He was fined, but the problems didn't stop. He earned a 3-month suspension the following season after hitting Nantes's Michael de Zakarian with a kung fu kick, something that will become his trademark years later. He was a very important player for Auxerre, so after they threatened the national team that they won't let him play for them, the suspension was brought down to 2 months. Marseille took note of Cantona's talent and they wanted to bring him back to his hometown. Both sides agreed, and the club paid a record sum of $22 million for the talented Frenchman. But the trouble kept on a-coming. Cantona was banned from playing for France after openly insulting the manager at the time, Henri Michel, live on TV. The whole of France knew about the rebellious genius from Auxerre, but the fire in him didn't allow Cantona to find peace, instead looking for trouble always and hunting justice everywhere he went. After a series of unfortunate events, Marseille loaned him out to Montpellier, where Cantona didn't stop his reckless ways, but he also played world-class football, leading the team to a French Cup title. This recommended him back to Marseille, where he'd won the French League title with his team, but was constantly at odds with the manager and the president at the time. At the end of the season, despite his dominant performance and the league title, the club sent him to Nimes because the differences were just too big between the player and the managers. Playing at Nimes, Cantona was frustrated with the referee's decision. As a protest, he threw the ball at him, earning himself a 1-month suspension. Being the madman that he was, he stood in front of the hearing committee, calling each and every one of them an idiot, easily extending his suspension for 2 more months. And then he shocked the world. Eric Cantona retired from football in 1991. The French public was stunned, to say the least. The French national team manager at the time, Michel Platini, was desperate to get Cantona back, so the legend himself talked him into returning to football. Cantona realized that if he was to return, it couldn't be in France, where he had all sorts of problems both on and off the pitch. So, in a decision of a lifetime, Cantona moved to England. He was first offered to Liverpool in November of 1991. Platini approached Graham Souness and told him that the forward is available for transfer. Souness, despite being impressed with Cantona himself, didn't want to risk the temperament the Frenchman brought, and he refused to bring him to Liverpool because he didn't want dressing room issues. This would prove to be the history-changing decision in world football. Cantona then tried out for Sheffield Wednesday. That's right, one of the best footballers ever had to go on a tryout, and he only had that opportunity through Platini's English connections. Sheffield were just promoted to the Premier League, meaning that their budget was thin and there wasn't a place for a big signing like Cantona. Instead, the Frenchman moved to Leeds United, and then he started making history. Immediately in his first season with Leeds, the club won the Football League First Division in 1991-92, and the Frenchman was at the heart of it all. While he didn't score much with just 3 goals to his name, he was the creative soul of the team, assisting left, right, and center, as Leeds took the title just ahead of Manchester United. The following season started even better. Cantona scored a hat-trick against Liverpool in the Community Shield, just further making the Reds pay for skipping on him when he was arriving from France. It looked like the best was yet to come from the Frenchman, but things quickly fell apart for him and the club. His manager at the time, Wilkinson, was furious with Cantona's decision to leave the pitch and go directly to the dressing room after he was subbed out against Glasgow Rangers in the European Cup. The relationship got worse from there, resulting in Cantona handing the transfer request to the club in November of 1992. However, Cantona's request wasn't just any transfer request like you see nowadays. He explicitly named only 3 clubs where he would go: Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester United. Leeds sold perhaps their most talented player to one of their biggest rivals too, Manchester United. Sir Alex Ferguson explicitly asked for Cantona, and even though Leeds fans were furious with the board's decision, the media felt like Cantona was too much of a burden in the dressing room. Cantona's impact at United was immediate. It was best described in an interview that his teammate at the time, Paul Ince, gave once. He just had that aura and presence. He took responsibility away from us. It was like he said, "I'm Eric, and I'm here to win the title for you." The team struggled until the moment the Frenchman showed up. They were far away from the top, and their fortunes didn't look like they were changing anytime soon. But Cantona was coming off of a league title with Leeds, and he was going to will his team to winning the domestic glory. This meant that United won their first league title in 26 years. It's an especially incredible feat considering that he won the league 2 years prior, both with Marseille in France and Leeds in England. The following season was also a spectacular one. Cantona was named the PFA Player of the Year, leading Manchester United to their second consecutive league title, as well as being the club's top scorer with 25 goals. Leeds were mourning the loss of the now best footballer in the country, and Cantona was thriving. The 1994-95 season arrived, and United were once again the main favorites to retain the Premier League title, with Cantona leading the charge. It all went very well until the fateful day in January of 1995 arrived. United were playing Crystal Palace, and Cantona struggled the whole match. As the frustration was building, he kicked an opponent, earning himself a direct red card. As he was heading to the dressing room, a fan provoked him further from the stands, and the Frenchman was having none of it. He kung fu kicked the fan, punching him and causing outrage throughout the country. Even though he faced criminal charges at one time, Cantona got off with 120 hours of community work, which was filled by training the kids at Manchester United. Responding to these events, Cantona had an unusual response. "When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much." Go figure. Cantona was then fined for 8 months for that action, and he didn't show a single display of regret. Years later, he spoke some more about the accident, adding, "I've said before I should have kicked him harder, but maybe tomorrow I'll say something else. I can't regret it. It was a great feeling. I learned from it. I think he learned too." Manchester United lost out in the title race without Cantona, and he himself wanted to leave the club. Even though he was on great terms with Sir Alex Ferguson, Cantona was deeply frustrated with his ban. However, the manager didn't want to let him go. This proved to be a wise decision because the first season of Cantona's return saw United win both the FA Cup and the Premier League. Not only that, but Cantona captained United in their quests that season. And just 2 years later, when Cantona was supposed to reach his peak, the wondrous Frenchman shocked the world yet again. He retired from football at the age of 30. It was an unprecedented decision at the time. To play at the highest level, you have to be very careful about what you eat, what you drink, what time you go to bed, what you think. You have to be concentrated on the game. Secondly, to do that, you need the passion. If you lose a bit of the passion, you lose a bit of something else, and that means you can't play at the highest level. Passion helps you improve yourself, but when you lose that, you can't improve yourself anymore, and I love that feeling that I was improving while playing. The real truth about Eric Cantona will probably never be revealed. Most people are on an extreme end of the spectrum. They either love him or they hate him. But one thing is certain. King Eric remains one of the biggest icons that football's ever seen, and he's a man of principle who will stand for his opinions, even if it costs him dearly.